We're live from New Delhi. You're watching DDI India News Hour, India's voice to the world. I'm Lipakshi Khurana. Coming up in the next hour. Debate issue dominates the US poll narrative. Kamala Harris bats for one more, even as Donald rules out another showdown. Polls show Kamala Harris outperformed Trump in ABC debate.
Well, folks, look, it's time to turn the page.
US imposes sanctions on suppliers to Pakistan's ballistic missile program, also includes China-based firms, says will continue to act against proliferation and associated procurement activities of concern. Joe Biden eyes foreign policy legacy as White House declares that the upcoming meeting with Quad leaders from Japan, India and Australia will be held in US President's hometown of Wilmington, Delaware on September 21st. US slaps fresh sanctions on 16 Venezuelan officials over election fraud. Maduro regime heads back, accusing Washington of a crime of aggression. Hurricane Francine weakens after leaving widespread power outages in Louisiana. Worse not over as threat of dangerous storm surges in weekend remains. And South America faces record-breaking wildfires amid climate crisis. Rain is forecasted next week for Brazil's center-south. Drought conditions are expected to continue through October in north and center-west. And on to the details now. After astounding face-to-face presidential debate between Donald Trump and Kamala Harris in Philadelphia 2 nights ago, and Fox News offered to host another one, all eyes are there to see the possibility of another televised debate between the two. But the question is whether it will happen as differences persist between the two aspirants. Also, Democratic presidential candidate Kamala Harris says she's ready for another debate. During a campaign rally in swing state North Carolina, Harris took a jibe on Trump and said many influential people of the Republican Party are vowing support for Democrats, leaving the Republicans high and dry. And she challenged Trump to hold another debate about issues and reasons in pending American policies.
200 people who worked for President George H.W. Bush, President George W. Bush, John McCain, and Mitt Romney have endorsed me for president. 2 nights ago, Donald Trump and I had our first debate. And I believe we owe it to the voters to have another debate.
But Trump says no way. The former U.S. president is not ready to oblige Harris in another debate, saying that Harris misrepresents facts and cannot be believed. Counting his earlier debate with U.S. President Joe Biden, Trump said 2 debates between presidential candidates had already taken place and there was no scope for another debate. Trump was speaking in Arizona rally, convincing the voters about his monumental victory over his rival. He also accused Harris telling lie about her working in McDonald's.
McDonald's, and she was working so hard. There's only one problem. She didn't work at McDonald's. She's a liar. Liar. As everyone saw 2 nights ago, we had a monumental victory over Comrade Kamala Harris in the presidential debate. So because we've done 2 debates and because they were successful, there will be no 3rd debate.
Well, Trump might have been scared of confronting Harris again because the post-debate polls have put Harris on the front foot. According to Reuters Ipsos poll, Kamala Harris leads Republican Donald Trump 47% to 42% for November 5th elections. Among voters who said they had heard at least something about Tuesday's debate, 53% said Harris won and 24% said Trump won. Some 52% of those familiar with the debate said Trump stumbled and didn't appear sharp, while 21% said that of Harris. Well, the U.S. State Department on Thursday imposed sanctions on suppliers to Pakistan's ballistic missile program. The sanctions also included on China-based firms. Department spokesperson Matthew Miller said in a statement that the Beijing Research Institute of Automation for Machine Building Industry had worked with Pakistan to procure equipment for testing rocket motors for the Shaheen 3 and Abad Bil systems and potentially for larger systems. The sanctions also targeted firms alongside Pakistan-based innovative equipment and a Chinese national for knowingly transferring equipment under missile technology restrictions. Washington similarly targeted 3 China-based companies with sanctions in October 2023 for supplying missile-applicable items to Pakistan. Well, U.S. President Joe Biden is set to host the 4th in-person Quad Leader Summit in his hometown Wilmington, Delaware on the 21st of September. The summit comes as Biden eyes his foreign policy legacy in his final months as a one-term president after dropping out of the 2024 U.S. elections and effectively handling the Democratic Party nomination to his Vice President Kamala Harris. White House spokesperson Karine Jean-Pierre said the president is looking forward to welcoming Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi, Australian Prime Minister Anthony Albanese and Prime Minister Kishida Fumio of Japan. The next Quad summit will be hosted by India, the White House said.
At the beginning of this administration, President Biden made the decision to take the Quad to the leader level, and next weekend, President Biden will host the 4th in-person Quad Leader Summit in Wilmington, Delaware. The President looks forward to welcoming Prime Minister of Australia, Prime Minister of India, and the Prime Minister of Japan. This will be President Biden's first time hosting foreign leaders in Wilmington as president, a reflection of his deep personal relationships with each of the Quad leaders and the importance of the Quad to all of our countries.
Well, British Prime Minister Keir Starmer arrived in the U.S. on Thursday for talks with U.S. President Joe Biden on issues of mutual and global concern. The U.S. President will host a British Prime Minister at the White House on Friday. The leaders will have an in-depth discussion on a range of global issues of mutual interest, including continuing robust support to Ukraine, securing a hostage release and ceasefire deal to end the Gaza conflict, protecting international shipping in the Red Sea from Houthi threats, and advancing a free and open Indo-Pacific. Well, the Biden administration also on Thursday imposed fresh sanctions on 16 Venezuelan officials. It comes in response to widespread voter fraud in the country's election that saw Maduro re-elected, which has been rejected by Washington as well as several European and Latin American nations. The sanctions include the judge and the prosecutor who authorized the arrest warrant for the opposition presidential candidate, Edmundo Gonzalez Urrutia, who has since fled Venezuela and sought protection in Spain. In addition to Treasury sanctions, the State Department is also imposing new visa restrictions on Maduro-aligned officials. And in response to the United States, Caracas rejected the sanctions imposed by Washington as a crime of aggression. A foreign ministry statement said that Venezuela rejects in the strongest terms the new crime of aggression committed by the government of the United States of America against Venezuela, seeking to ingratiate itself with the political class that has resorted to fascist and violent practices to overthrow, without success, the Bolivarian democracy. And 24 soldiers and police officers from Jamaica arrived in Haiti on Thursday to join a UN-backed mission led by Kenya to fight powerful criminal gangs. Jamaica formally pledged 200 personnel for the UN-backed mission in March, but the long-delayed security force has been slow to deploy, and its initial mandate will expire in under a month if it is not renewed. The mission is being led by Kenya, which is so far the only country to have deployed to Haiti with 400 police officers out of a total pledge of 1,000. The Belize Defense Force deployed 2 senior officers to Jamaica ahead of an assignment to Haiti as part of its contribution to the security mission. And Mexico's President López Obrador said on Thursday a majority of Mexican state legislators have approved a judicial overhaul, marking a final legislative step in its constitutional approval process. At a press conference, outgoing president announced that 18 local legislators had already given their seal of approval. The reform was approved by 2/3 of senators on Wednesday, following a contentious all-night debate, and will now go into effect when it is published in the government's official gazette. Changes to Mexico's constitution requires a 2/3 vote in Congress, followed by the approval of a majority of state legislators in Mexico's 32 states. A North Korean leader, Kim Jong-un, visited a uranium enrichment facility, calling for the development of new centrifuges to increase weapons-grade material production, further advancing the country's nuclear arsenal. Kim's visit to the Nuclear Weapons Institute offered a rare look inside North Korea's banned nuclear program. He emphasized the importance of expanding the arsenal for both self-defense and preemptive strikes, citing and escalating threats from the U.S. and its allies. Additionally, Kim oversaw the test of a new 600 mm multiple launch rocket system and guided a special forces drill. Meanwhile, North Korea condemned a recent U.S.-led United Nations command meeting in Seoul, labeling it a war organization. Germany recently joined the command, committing to help defend South Korea in case of conflict. And Peru began 3 days of national mourning on Thursday for polarizing former President Alberto Fujimori. The mortal remains of late Fujimori will be kept at the National Museum in Lima for people to pay their last respects. The former Peruvian president will receive a state funeral in the south of the Lima over the weekend. And still to come in DD News Hour. Putin warns West if Kyiv uses long-range missiles, it would lead to direct conflict between Russia and NATO. In Sri Lanka, postal voting for 2024 presidential election concludes. And we'll tell you all about a unique public art initiative raising awareness about the harmonious coexistence between humans and wildlife in New York.
United States is going into its 60th quadrennial presidential election. What are the implications of this election? What is the state of democracy in the United States? Can India and the United States work together?
What are the values? Do we still hold true the democratic values that we did when the Constitution was and our forefathers were drafting the Constitution? Are we evolving, right? And what does it mean to evolve?
The relationship between India and the United States, as you point out, is critical. And what is foundational to that relationship is the common democratic values and the value of a vote, a single vote in each country.
Moving on. From Ukraine news now, Russian President Vladimir Putin issued a stark warning on Thursday, stating that allowing Ukraine to attack Russian territory with Western-supplied long-range missiles would lead to direct conflict between Russia and NATO. He asserted that such a move would significantly alter the scope of the war, pulling Western nations into direct involvement. He emphasized that Ukraine lacks the technical ability to operate these advanced missile systems on its own, meaning NATO military personnel would have to handle critical tasks like satellite targeting and flight path programming. According to Putin, this involvement would make the West an active participant, leading to a significant and dangerous expansion of the conflict.
It is not about allowing the Ukrainian regime to strike Russia with these weapons or not. It is about making a decision about whether NATO countries are directly involved in the military conflict or not. If this decision is made, it will mean nothing less than the direct participation of the NATO countries, the United States and the European countries in the war in Ukraine. This is their direct participation, and this, of course, significantly changes the very essence, the very nature of the conflict. This will mean that the NATO countries, the United States and the European countries are fighting Russia. And if this is so, then bearing in mind the change in the very essence of this conflict, we will make appropriate decisions based on the threats that will be created for us.
Well, Ukraine on Thursday accused Russia of using strategic bombers to target a civilian grain vessel in the Black Sea, just outside Ukrainian waters and near NATO member Romania. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky said a Russian missile hit the vessel, which was transporting grain to Egypt, marking the first such attack on a grain ship since the war began. While no casualties were reported, the U.S. ambassador and the UN condemned the strike, calling it a threat to global food security. Ukrainian officials described the attack as a blatant violation of international law, and the damaged vessel, identified as the Aya, sustained significant damage. Russia has not yet responded to the allegations. And Russian shelling on Thursday claimed 3 lives and injured 9 others in Ukraine's northeastern Kharkiv region. The attack targeted the village of Borova, southeast of Kharkiv, Ukraine's second-largest city, which has been a frequent focus of Russian strikes. 1 victim succumbed to injuries in the hospital. As emergency services responded, Russian forces launched a second strike, injuring 3 rescuers. Separately, 5 people were hurt in a Russian airstrike on Kharkiv's Kivitsky district. Meanwhile, in the bordering Sumy region, officials reported 57 Russian attacks throughout the day, with glide bombs killing 1 person near Yampil. These attacks come as fighting continues in Russia's neighboring Kursk region, where Ukrainian forces launched an incursion last month. And NATO Secretary General Jens Stoltenberg is set to succeed German diplomat Christoph Heusgen as chair of the prestigious Munich Security Conference, sources revealed. Often referred to as the Davos for Defense, the annual forum brings together global political and military leaders in Munich to address security issues. Stoltenberg, who has led NATO since 2014, will step down from his role in October, following a decade of service marked by heightened global tensions and military challenges. His successor at NATO, former Dutch Prime Minister Mark Rutte, was announced earlier this year. Stoltenberg's new role as chair of the Munich Security Conference places him at the forefront of shaping future global defense dialogues, signaling a continued leadership presence in international security. And Spain will host a meeting on Friday, bringing together ministers from Muslim and European countries to push forward a 2-state solution for the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. The gathering will include members of the Arab Islamic Contact Group for Gaza, such as Egypt, Qatar, Saudi Arabia and Turkey. Spanish Prime Minister Pedro Sanchez will welcome the attendees at his residence before the discussions led by Foreign Minister José Manuel Albares take place in Madrid. EU Foreign Affairs Chief Josep Borrell will also participate. The meeting aims to bolster international engagement in Middle East peace efforts and build consensus around the 2-state solution. This follows Spain's recognition in May of a Palestinian state alongside Ireland and Norway. And a 4-person crew of civilians on board SpaceX's Polaris Dawn mission unlocked the hatch of the capsule and made history as the first group of non-government astronauts to conduct a spacewalk. Billionaire entrepreneur Jared Isaacman and SpaceX employee Sarah Gillies stepped out of the SpaceX Crew Dragon capsule for the first ever private spacewalk. In recent decades, astronauts used an airlock that separates most of the craft from the space vacuum outside, but the SpaceX Dragon capsule was in effect entirely exposed to space outside. Spacewalks are one of the most difficult maneuvers in space, so the fact that a private company has pulled it off is a milestone in the history of space travel. And Nepal's first public-private partnership establishment, Salt Trading Corporation, celebrates its 62nd anniversary on Thursday. Salt Trading Corporation is responsible for eradicating iodine deficiency disorder in Nepal by providing iodized salt, replacing rock salt for consumption from the market, and generating awareness regarding iodine deficiency diseases in Nepal. The government of India started providing iodized salt to Nepal in 1973 to support Nepal's fight against iodine deficiency disorder. Speaking on the occasion, Nepal Minister for Industry, Commerce and Supplies Damodar Bhandari assured consumers that there will be no shortage of food supplies during the upcoming festivity of Dashain and Tihar. CEO of Salt Trading Corporation, Urmila Shrestha, stated that STC has supplied essential consumer goods like salt, sugar, beaten rice, flour, printing paper, chemicals, fertilizer, spices, tea, LPG, lentils and other consumables at reasonable prices.
And Indian people, Indian suppliers, that we are importing 100% salt from Gujarat as well as from Rajasthan. Indian salt has gone to all the 100% population of Nepal. All the citizens are, customer of your salt.
Well, in Sri Lanka, postal voting for the 2024 presidential election concluded on Thursday. Postal voting took place on the 4th, 5th and 6th of September. And for the voters who were unable to cast their postal ballots on those dates, additional opportunities were provided on Wednesday and Thursday. Local media quoted the Department of Post saying that over 694,000 presidential postal ballot papers were received so far. Reports added that 95% of these ballots have already been dispatched to the district returning officers. The election is scheduled for 21st of this month to elect the 9th executive president. And for more, we have Dr. Ahmed Mayoon Faruqi joining us for more on this. Well, Faruqi, postal voting concluded last night. What is the general mood of the citizens there in Sri Lanka?
Good morning, Lepakshi, and a very good morning to all of you. Sri Lanka, you see, had gone through a very terrible kind of economic crisis in 2022. ATS, the difficulty has, has been taken care of for some time, but the general mood is still with regard to the economic crisis. There is anger, there is frustration, and there is some amount of desire for a change. And there is some amount of also, reliance that the person who has helped the island's economy out could also be the person who could take it forward. So as of now, there are three front runners, and that is the incumbent President Ranil Wickremesinghe, who is being challenged by the opposition leader Sajid Premadasa of SJB and Anura Kumara Dissanayake of NPP. Yesterday's postal voting was entirely for the tri-forces and the government employees. Of course, the initial first 3 days on 4th, 5th and 6th, the voting had been done, postal voting, and those who missed out on those dates, they were allowed to post their votes on day before and yesterday. As per the initial numbers, it appears like around 94% of turnout has been completed, but the complete picture we'll get once the entire detailed statistics are released by the Election Commission. Lepakshi.
Right. Also, as elections are around the corner, what are the major issues you feel that will, make the people vote?
Lepakshi, one of the most important one has been the hardship that people have faced during the economic crisis, and even till now. You see, the difficulty which people had was the inflation was rising on one end. On the other hand, they were being taxed quite a lot. The income tax had been raised almost doubled. From around 18 to 20% to the highest slab of 36% in 2023. And apart from this, VAT charges were also, VAT was also increased from 15% to 18%, and many other exempted categories were put under VAT. This was one of the major, challenges which people had faced, and that will be high on their agenda. That is one. The second is the issue of a constant issue of corruption charges, which have been, posed on several of the ministers of the erstwhile regimes. As Sri Lanka has gone through several changes in the regimes earlier. The previous one was under the then President Gotabaya Rajapaksa, that is belonging to the SLPP party, and quite a lot of charges were leveled against that regime. And primarily, that was the reason why people had come out onto the roads and protested. So these will be the primary issues. However, there are other smaller issues like remodification of the IMF deal, as well as certain other systemic changes which could help Sri Lanka in posing in a better manner for its growth and its development of the economy. Lepakshi.
All right, Faruqi, thank you so much for all those details from there. And some weather updates from across the globe now. Hurricane Francine weakened into a post-tropical cyclone on Thursday afternoon as it moved north across Mississippi, soaking the state and its neighbors in heavy rain after slamming Louisiana coast as a dangerous Category 2 hurricane, causing widespread power outages for hundreds of thousands of homes and businesses. Flood watches and wind advisories remain in effect for some areas in or near the storm's path. Francine could bring 4 to 8 inches of rainfall across parts of Mississippi, Tennessee, Georgia, and many more, with some areas getting more than 12 inches. Unseasonal rains and floods affect the lives of families displaced by the conflict in Sudan. Millions of people across Chad, Sudan and South Sudan are being affected by the heavy downpour. Heavy downpours are also making it extremely difficult for authorities to transport assistance across flooded and muddy roads. Floods have destroyed bridges and roads across Sudan, slowing the transport of aid, including across the newly reopened Adre border. And South America gets ravaged by fire from Brazil's Amazon rainforest, breaking previous records for the number of blazes seen in a year. For better understanding, we show you this map of South America. The red spots visible shows the estimated areas burned by wildfires since 6th of September. Satellite data analyzed by Brazil's space research agency INPE has registered more than 3,400,000 fire hotspots so far this year, in all 13 countries of South America, topping the earlier 2007 record. Well, Brazil and Bolivia have dispatched thousands of firefighters to attempt to control the blazes, but remain mostly at the mercy of extreme weather fueling the fires. Rain in forecast next week for Brazil's central-south. Drought conditions are expected to continue through October in north and center-west also. And wildfires burned dozens of mountain homes near Los Angeles slowed on Thursday with cooler temperatures, but authorities warned the blazes still threatened suburbs. According to the map we are showing you on the screen, there are around 3 areas where damage has been reported by the wildfires, driven by triple-digit heat, gusting winds and tinder-dry vegetation scorching over 44,000 hectares of land. The Bridge Fire, California's largest current wildfire, swept through communities in the San Gabriel Mountains. The blaze have destroyed over hundreds of houses in Mount Baldy and Wrightwood. And now let's take a look at other stories making news around the world. Senegal's President Bassirou Diomaye Faye resolved the opposition-led National Assembly, clearing the way for early legislative elections. In an address, Faye said legislative elections would be held on November 17th and 2024. The Great Elephant Migration, an innovative public art initiative aimed at raising awareness about the harmonious coexistence between humans and wildlife. 100 life-sized wooden-looking elephant sculptures have been strategically placed throughout a New York City neighborhood, creating a visually stunning and impactful installation. And Australia to embrace its favourite festival of flowers this weekend, prompting a love for gardening and the environment while bringing communities together in celebrations. Cities and towns across the island nation will come alive with vibrant displays of blossoms, drawing locals and tourists alike to immerse themselves in a colourful celebration of nature's beauty. And still to come on DDI News Hour. India's National Security Advisor Ajit Doval meets Russian President Vladimir Putin ahead of BRICS summit beginning on the 22nd of October. India's External Affairs Minister is in Geneva and Switzerland, where he shared his perspectives on global tectonic shifts. Agitating doctors at loggerheads with West Bengal government over live streaming of the meeting to resolve the RG car stalemate. Welcome back. You're watching DDI News Hour. Lepakshi Khurana, and time now for a quick recap of the headlines. Debate issue dominates the U.S. poll narrative. Kamala Harris bats for one more even as Donald rules out another showdown. Polls show Kamala Harris outperformed Trump in ABC debate. U.S. imposes sanctions on supplies to Pakistan's ballistic missile program, also includes China-based firms, says will continue to act against proliferation and associated procurement activities of concern. Joe Biden eyes foreign policy legacy as White House declares that the upcoming meeting with Quad leaders from Japan, India and Australia will be held in U.S. President's hometown of Wilmington, Delaware on the 21st of September. U.S. slabs fresh sanctions on 16 Venezuelan officials over election fraud. Maduro regime hits back, accusing of Washington of a crime of aggression. And ahead of the BRICS summit in Kazan from October 22nd to 24th, Russian President Vladimir Putin has been meeting with diplomats and security officials from BRICS nations. International Security Advisor Ajit Doval conveyed a message from Prime Minister Narendra Modi during his meeting with Putin. A special report from Russia Today's Igor Zindanov.
18th century palace on the southern coast of the Gulf of Finland. This venue is where the Russian President Vladimir Putin has been meeting with political, diplomatic and security heavyweights of some of the BRICS nations. He sat together with representatives of Iran, India, China, South Africa and Brazil, as all those delegates were provided with a rather rare opportunity when they could talk to the Russian leader directly without any middlemen. The already chamber-like format then shrunk even further when the Russian president held one-on-one meetings with representatives of India, China and Iran. And when it comes to India, well, New Delhi has sent here a truly notable character because he is an intelligence veteran. He is sometimes even referred to as a spy master. National Security Advisor of India, Ajit Doval, clearly enjoys the trust of the Prime Minister, Narendra Modi, who has sent him here, showing that he has no doubts that his man is well versed in the art of diplomacy too.
I have come here on the direction of Prime Minister Modi, who has conveyed his highest regards to you. His visit to Moscow was greatly successful and he was highly satisfied with the visit, and he has gone back with some very pleasant memories.
What they discussed behind closed doors will remain a mystery for the public, at least for now. But what was said on camera is basically Vladimir Putin has invited the Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi to visit the BRICS, the major BRICS summit later in October, and to talk to him one-on-one. As for Beijing, well, it deployed here its top diplomat, whose tete-a-tete meeting with Vladimir Putin went on for over an hour.
Relations of comprehensive partnership and strategic cooperation between Russia and China have been of a mutually beneficial and equal nature for many, many years. And on the 2nd October, we will celebrate the 75th anniversary of the establishment of diplomatic ties between our states. Russia and China are jointly defending the principles of a just democratic order based on international law, sovereignty and equality.
And by the way, the Chinese foreign minister has confirmed that the Chinese leader, Xi Jinping, will be visiting and attending the big BRICS summit, which is also hosted by Russia next month already in Kazan. Representatives from dozens of nations, more than 20 countries participated in this BRICS security event, and a big emphasis was made on the participation of the countries from the global south. More than 30 countries have already expressed willingness to participate in the life of this alliance in one way or form. Some applied to join them. This year alone, several countries joined officially as full members. They became full members of BRICS. The founding members, the so-called maybe founding fathers of BRICS, they have been adamant from the very get-go that BRICS is not something basically BRICS is not an enemy to the West. BRICS is not an enemy to NATO and other alliances, because it is an alliance of a very different sort. It is not like the EU, it is not like NATO, it has a very different mission statement, and that it is simply an alternative, and well, an alternative that is growing very popular.
Well, India's External Affairs Minister, Dr. S. Jaishankar, is in Geneva in Switzerland, where he shared his perspectives on global tectonic shifts at the Geneva Center for Security Policy. He thanked Ambassador John David Levitt and Ambassador Thomas Gremenga for hosting him. The minister also met UN High Commissioner for Human Rights, Volker Turk. He shared India's perspectives on the global human rights situation and how challenges are best addressed. Dr. S. Jaishankar also met Director General of the World Health Organization, Dr. Tedros. Two leaders discussed cooperation in WHO, including on traditional medicine and public health. At last, Dr. Jaishankar shared some moments with Indian diaspora and Friends of India in Geneva. And updates on upcoming assembly elections to be held in Indian Union Territory of Jammu and Kashmir now. Scrutiny of nominations will be held for the third phase of assembly polls in the North Indian Union Territory. The candidates can withdraw their nomination papers by or before 17th of September. As many as 483 candidates have filed their nomination papers across 40 assembly constituencies of 7 districts of Jammu and Kashmir. Polling for the third phase will be held on the 1st of October 2024. And for more, we have Shabir Dar joining us from there. Well, Shabir, how is the campaigning going on with just a few days left from the first phase?
Yeah, in Jammu and Kashmir, we're seeing that the election is a festival sort of thing here, because we're seeing a lot of enthusiasm among people, and the campaigning is going on with high, speed and high enthusiasm, because we're seeing, electorates and the leaders having, they are connecting each other, and the rallies are being held both in the urban areas and deep in the peripheries and border areas. We have seen that, major leaders and big leaders from various political parties are already here or have come here to campaign for their respective parties. We have seen the Union Home Minister has held a rally in Jammu. Congress President Mallikarjun Kharge was in Kashmir recently, where he addressed a big rally in Anantnag, to campaign for the candidate who is contesting from Anantnag constituency. So more or less, this election which are happening, after a gap of 10 years, are being viewed and watched very enthusiastically by the people and election observers, because a lot of expectations and a lot of hopes of the people are with these elections, because it has been a gap of 10 years when people are without the popular government. No doubt, a lot of development did happen in Kashmir in past few years, but the popular government and the electorate want that their voice be heard by the leaders they elect. So definitely these elections have generated a lot of hope. So that's why we're seeing enthusiasm, expectations are high in these elections.
Right. Also, if we talk about the scrutiny of nominations, which is also scheduled for all the constituencies going to the polls in the third phase.
We have, yesterday was the last day of filing of nominations for the third phase. 40 assembly constituencies will be going to polls in the third phase, which will happen on October 1st. Around 483, candidates filed their nominations in the last phase, and the scrutiny will happen today, and then it will be decided which candidates will be actually allowed to contest, because the scrutiny is like some candidature will be rejected because if they have not submitted their forms properly. So big wigs are there. We have seen the Devinder Singh Rana, who is the brother of Union Minister Jitendra Singh, and People's Conference candidate and President Sajjad Loan. They are in fray. They filed their nomination on the third phase among the 83 candidates who are in the fray in the third phase. So the scrutiny will happen, and then the last date of nominations or withdrawal of nomination is there. So if anybody wants to withdraw, they can withdraw the nominations. But the important thing is that elections are happening, and people are very keen in participating in these elections, because we have seen a trend has been certain in Kashmir in the recently held parliamentary elections, where we have seen that people have been enthusiastically participating, particularly the youth. So in these elections, people participation and, enthusiasm in people.
All right, a lot of enthusiasm among the people regarding the elections. Thank you so much, Shabir, for all those details from there. And moving on, and as unrest over gruesome rape and murder of Kolkata's junior doctor continues, the protesting doctors blamed the West Bengal administration for its rigidness in not allowing live streaming of the meeting to resolve the RG car stalemate. The doctors also called Chief Minister Mamata Banerjee's remarks blaming the medics for the impasse as unfortunate. Meanwhile, West Bengal's governor C.V. Ananda Bose announced his decision to socially boycott Chief Minister Mamata Banerjee, citing widespread public outcry. And the Union Cabinet, led by PM Modi, has launched the PM Surya Ghar Muft Bijli Yojana, allocating 75,021 crore rupees to install rooftop solar systems in 1 crore households. The scheme offers free electricity up to 300 units per month and subsidies on installation, boosting renewable energy and reducing emissions. Our correspondent Tapas Bhattacharya gives you this ground report about how the scheme is fast changing India's energy needs and requirements.
Right now, I'm in Gandhinagar in Gujarat. It's a city which is actually really moving ahead with when it comes to solar energy and how to use that solar energy to power their homes. Beautiful houses here in Gandhinagar, and the best part is that most of these houses have solar rooftop, which provides them, electricity at practically free of cost. How? Let's just find out.
The subsidy is going on from the government. So we got the subsidy, and it is based on the how much kV that you are installing the solar. So we got the subsidy of the particular thing, of the particular energies for which we have installed the solar.
I just wanted to check with you, what was the average electricity bill that you used to pay before this?
Yeah, obviously it helps, because our average electricity consumption was every monthly 12,000 to 13,000 rupees. Okay. And now in the last month bill, we only had to pay 800 rupees. So we were able to generate what we were using.
Exactly. And at the same time, you guys, this solar electricity is also linked to the power electricity. Just to put it into perspective, they are not just using the electricity, but at the same time, putting the electricity back in the grid, isn't it?
Yeah, true, because it is a bi-directional meter. So some of it you use it, and the top of the energy which is extra, they go back to the grid.
We knew that there are 3 R's for our Earth: reuse, reduce, and recycle.
Right, and now you have a recycle and solar energy at your house. How does that make you feel? You say this to your friends that I have a solar rooftop at my house?
Yes.
This is the meter that is here. Sir, what's your name?
Achvisha.
Sir, please tell us how this whole thing works. We see 2 meters out here.
This meter recorded generation unit of solar system.
Okay.
And this is net metering. This meter shows import and export of units.
Okay. So
if customer utilize more than generation, then it's show in import. And utilize less than generation, then it's export units.
So what basically happens is that you are not just, you actually it's producing electricity, you're giving it in the grid, you're using it, and rest of the electricity you're giving into the grid, isn't it?
Yes, rest of the units utilized in others customer, and we are giving financial benefits to these customers.
Solar rooftop schemes like the one that they have, Prime Minister's Surya Ghar scheme, is actually a major step in the direction of making India self-reliant in energy requirement, keeping in mind the international commitment that they have for the COP26, where they want to become net neutral by 2017. With camera person Saurabh Bakshi, this is Taposh Bhattacharya for DDI India from Gandhinagar, Gujarat.
Well, at the Semicon India 2024, the Singapore-based Clean Tech is showcasing their clean technology that becomes crucial to the semiconductor industry, both for the protection of environment and promoting greener tech in this sector. My colleague Debendra Wandal spoke to the MD of Clean Tech, Mujib Mundial. Listen in.
Well, the production of semiconductor involves a lot of gases and chemicals, but there is a solution that Cleantech of Singapore has brought to ensure that the environmental hazard that is due to these gases and chemicals that is required for the production of semiconductor is reduced to the minimum. And to talk more on this, I'm joined by Mr. Mujib, who is the Managing Director of Cleantech Singapore. How do you help to reduce the environmental pollution that semiconductor production has?
In the semiconductor manufacturing of the chips, the most critical utilities they use is gas and chemical. So we have the turnkey solutions that proven in the industry, and we are proud to say that we are world-class solutions in the industry.
How do you look at the semicon industry of India?
I am very ambitious, because I am in this industry almost 25 years, and I am stationed in Singapore. And this time we see that is more real, because the government is supporting the industries, almost 70% subsidy.
Is Cleantech investing or partnering with any Indian company here, or are you planning to come to India?
We already have a subsidiary in India. It's operational for last 2 years. And we also bringing another 3 more companies. We also plan to have our own manufacturing facility in India that can supply made in India products that according to PM Modi's vision.
Of course, this is the vision of the government and companies like you who will be working towards fulfilling of the dream of making India as the global manufacturing hub for semiconductors. With camera person Mohit, this is Divyendu Mondal from Greater Noida for DD India.
Well, Defence Minister Rajnath Singh inaugurated the International Defence and Aerospace Expo in Jodhpur in Rajasthan. IDAX aims to showcase indigenous skills and indomitable spirit of Indian aviation industries to a wide spectrum of decision makers and end users from across the world.
These visuals are clearly displaying India's advanced technology in air defence. And this is getting global attention. Defence Minister Rajnath Singh inaugurated the prestigious International Defence and Aerospace Expo, the IDAX 24, at Jodhpur in the western Indian state of Rajasthan, which showcased India's commitment to indigenous defence manufacturing and aerospace innovation.
This simulator is for the Mirage 2000. It is what is known as a part task trainer, which means it specializes in a particular task of the overall flight mission. In this particular case, it simulates the large force engagement. So large force engagement is many airplanes on one side and many airplanes on the other side, which are typically called red versus blue engagement, are going to typically engage in what is known as a beyond visual range combat. So in this beyond visual range combat, they will use their radar to pick up the enemy airplane, and they'll take their missiles to take it out.
The IDAX 24 aims to showcase indigenous skills and indomitable spirit of Indian aviation industry to a wide spectrum of decision makers and end users from global air forces participating in Tarang Shakti 2024.
More than 60 exhibitors are showcasing their strength in IDEX 2024. The whole idea is to tell the world that India has arrived as an exporter of defense equipments and technology.
The event is witnessing enthusiastic participation from startups, MSMEs and major aeronautical industries, with 68 industry players presenting cutting-edge defense technologies. The exhibition is aimed at providing a global platform to the Indian companies to sell their defense products and technologies in the international market. Vishal Baristo's report for DD India.
And now let's take a look at other stories making news today. The Supreme Court of India will announce its verdict on Friday regarding Delhi Chief Minister Arvind Kejriwal's petitions for bail and his challenge against his arrest by the Central Bureau of Investigation in the Delhi excise policy case. Kejriwal has submitted 2 petitions contesting the denial of bail and the legality of his arrest in connection with a corruption investigation initiated by the CBI. The Chief Minister was taken into custody on the 26th of June. The attacks by the wolves continue unabated in Uttar Pradesh's Bahraich district. In another late-night incident, 2 women were injured when a wolf attacked them on Thursday. Both of them have been admitted to the local hospital for treatment. The auspicious 10-day festival of Ganesh Chaturthi is being celebrated all across India with great fervour. Devotees are celebrating in their unique ways as a doctor from West Indian state of Gujarat made Ganesha idol out of 5,100 earthen pots. Well, you're watching DDI News Hour. Time now for updates from the world of business. Boeing's U.S. West Coast factory owners stood in long lines to vote on a much criticized new contract calling for a strike as it wrestles with production delays and mounting debt. A potential strike could start on Friday, which would be a big early blow to Boeing's new CEO, Kelly Ortberg. Roughly 30,000 workers who produce Boeing 737 MAX, 767 and 777 jets in the Seattle and Portland areas are voting on their first full contract in 16 years. The proposed deal includes a general wage increase of 25%, a $3,000 signing bonus and a pledge to build Boeing's next commercial jet in the Seattle area. Boeing workers said they were voting in strike. Under complicated union rules, 2/3 must vote in favor of a strike for the action to begin. With anything less than that, the contract will go into effect. And Pakistani Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif said that friendly countries had played a major role in helping meet requirements placed before Islamabad by the IMF. Pakistani officials had said they were trying to arrange up to $2 billion to meet a financing gap and were in discussions with commercial banks for this. Islamabad has for years relied on China, Saudi Arabia and the United Arab Emirates for financial assistance. The International Monetary Fund's Executive Board will discuss Pakistan's $7 billion bailout program on the 25th of September. Pakistan struck a staff-level agreement with the global lender in June, but board approval for the 37-month program has been pending since then. And you're watching DDI News Hour. Time now for some sports news. The Indian contingent enjoyed a medal rush on day 2 of the South Asian Junior Athletics Championship on Thursday. The athletes secured an impressive 19 medals, including 9 gold. The 9 players who won gold medals on day 2 include Anisha, Neeru Pathak, Jay Kumar, Shah Rukh Khan, RC Jitin Arjunan, Ritik, Prachi Ankush, Unnati Ayappa and Pratiksha Yamuna. Day 2 haul has pushed India's overall gold medal tally to 12, following the 3 gold medals claimed on the opening day of the championship. And Prime Minister Narendra Modi met with India's Paralympics contingent on Thursday at his residence in New Delhi. Team India returned with a rich medal haul, bagging 29 medals, which includes 7 gold, 9 silver and 13 bronze medals.
बाकी लोगों के लिए आप पीएम का मतलब होता है कि प्राइम मिनिस्टर और हम सब के लिए आप पीएम का मतलब है परम मित्र।
शीतल की सिग्नेचर मिल जाएगी आज मुझे।
आने से पहले आप जब सबसे बात करते हो और फिर आने के बाद सबसे मिलते हैं, आई थिंक सारे मेडलिस्ट, सारे एथलीट यही सोचते हैं कि हमें यही मौका मिले। सर, लोग पैरा को अभी तक अपनाए नहीं जिस तरह आपने अपनाया है।
मैं बहुत लोग को बोलता है हमारा ब्रांड एम्बेसडर कौन है? हमारा मोदी जी हमारा ब्रांड एम्बेसडर।
तो क्या पहनाना चाहोगे? तो मैं यहाँ बैठता हूँ, तुम पहनाओ। तुम मुझसे बड़े हो, दिखाई दे। इस बार जिनकी रील सबसे ज्यादा पॉपुलर हुई, वहां तो तुमने दिन निकाल दिए। अब घर में क्या होगा तेरा? सिमरन?
सर, ये जितना अच्छा बन के दिखा रहा है इतना है नहीं।
कभी ना कभी ऐसे प्रेशर आता रहता है कि आपको परफॉर्म करना है। जब आप बोलते हो कि आप जाओ बस खेलो, हाँ जीत हार तो लगी रहती है, फिर नीचे वाले ये सब ऐसे लगते हैं अरे देख लेंगे।
जब टोक्यो में गोल्ड लेके आए तो आपने प्रॉमिस लिया था कि ऐसे ऐसे 2 गोल्ड और चाहिए मेरे को, तो ये दूसरा सर आपके लिए।
Well, the 20th edition of the Joint Military Exercise Yudh Abhyas 2024 between India and USA is underway at Mahajan Field Firing Ranges in Rajasthan. 14-day exercise that began on September 9th involves troops of Indian Army and USA trained together to increase interoperability between forces, enhancing defense cooperation. All right, that's all for this edition of DD India News Hour, but let us know your thoughts on the news of the day. For those on the go, you can get all the latest news and updates from India and across the world in the DD India mobile app. The app is available on both Android and iOS platforms. Scan the QR code on the screen to download now. We'll be back with more news as it breaks here on DD India. I'm Lipakshi Khurana from all of us here in Delhi. Thanks for watching DD India News Hour.